You could have 1,000 Zoom calls, and one-on-one in person would beat the totality of that tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
CT, you've been on our show before. You were, working in one line. You've had some life changes. You've kind of uprooted your life and you're doing things differently now, and it's kind of brought you some new opportunities. Can you tell me more about that change? What were you doing before? Where are you at now? How are you helping people?
Yeah. So last time we talked, I was in the beaches of Florida, and now I'm in the mountains of Colorado. So
That's
big
quite
change,
quite the switch.
quite the switch, quite the switch. A big entrepreneurial scene here, and that was a big driving force for why I wanted to make the move. The ocean was great, the beach was great. The winter here so far has been like 60s, so I can't complain. I must have brought the good weather. That was like a big switch. And then from a business standpoint, really focus on relationships and attachment style coaching and helping people to understand those dynamics. I've made the mistakes myself, so you don't have to. Regardless of how old we are, whether we're 20, 50, 192, we just repeat the same patterns and are in those same dynamics unless we have the understanding to be able to move through it.
And it can be tough for us to realize that sometimes we're just going through life. We don't recognize these behaviors that we're having, that they're impacting us positive or negative, and that these behaviors have the opportunity to change our paths and we could fix them.
Yeah, I think it would be best if I just go over the four attachment styles real quick, just for a baseline. So you have secure, and then you have three insecure types: anxious, dismissive avoidant, and fearful avoidant. So I'll do dismissive avoidant first, in that usually, and I should back up 1 second, that these form in like how you received and how you were given, showing love in childhood, but then also they can be changed through your relationships. So you may be born and raised secure and then become anxious, or vice versa. But dismissive avoidant is when essentially the feelings that you had, the emotions that you had, were negated or neglected, or you're crying, you're upset, and your parents are just like, hey, go to your room, figure it out, and then like come back. Like emotions were not shown. And so when you get into young adulthood and further, then you haven't worked that muscle. When somebody brings that closeness to you, when they're feeling good about the connection, they're excited to move forward, then like you feel pressure from that and you feel overwhelmed by that, and you're gonna pull away. Fearful avoidant is like a mix of anxious and avoidant together. So fearful avoidant usually grew up in a home that was chaotic, and it could be toxic behavior or negative things. There was like a fear around love, and so you may have been showing it, but then there was fear around it, and that obviously it didn't feel good. And so you're kind of always on edge of, I want the closeness, but then I'm also scared by it. Whereas anxious is, I'm just scared that it's going to leave. And so I'm clinging to it really tightly. So the three insecure: anxious, dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant. And fearful avoidant is the most complex, because you kind of have both levers pulling in the same or opposite directions simultaneously.
Wow. So knowing these types of behaviors, how do we recognize and realize which ones that we are? Are there certain ways that we kind of handle these situations, like you said? And then how do we kind of change that course, or just being mindful of? I feel like we can have some positive changes to that behavior.
Yeah, definitely. You want to look back on your childhood and how you were raised, how you grew up, parents, caregivers, all of that. It could even talk to people where like their parents were great, but then like they had a babysitter or something that like brought out some of those tendencies, like where they always wanted like reassurance, and they never really got it. And so they're always kind of clamoring for that. But start there, and then also look at your past relationships. And I'll tell you that oftentimes the relationship dynamics that you've experienced have probably been very consistent throughout your life. And you wouldn't necessarily know that, or like think about that until you like really dive into it, and you're like, oh, holy smokes, yeah, that does make sense, because Susie, Johnny Q, whatever it is, it's like the same pattern repeating and repeating. And so being able to first understand your style and your type, it's not a label in the sense of anything negative. It's just purely for understanding. And then once you know that, and you can more easily see it in your partners as well. As you get even further along into it, then you can notice pretty quickly when you start getting to know somebody just in like early dating, whether they have the capacity to meet you where you need to be met. We can have all the amazing compatibility in the world. Oh, you like to do these activities, you like to ski, you like to hike, you like to go to the beach, you like to knit, I don't know, whatever, name all the stuff you like to do. This is so great, this is amazing. But if their capacity is here for a relationship is like low and yours is really high, like you're never going to be able to meet each other where you need to be met. And a lot of times the attachment styles can be part of that whole equation.
Right. And you mentioned before it's almost like you're speaking a different language, Spanish versus English, or maybe even just love language. And I feel like those behaviors even kind of translate into how we handle relationships or when we think it's appropriate to say a certain thing, do a certain thing. And unfortunately it can blow up in our face if it's not being received by the recipient that way.
I think love language is a really good segue as well, or a way to think about this, because love languages are, how we receive and give love, like what makes us feel. How do we want love to be shown to us? If we really like physical touch or words of affirmation, then somebody giving us gifts every day, that's just going to feel like, okay, that's cool. Like it's not gonna like hit us. It's not gonna feel the way that we want to feel that love to be shown. Having that's more, I would say. I mean, yes, it's internal or external depending on the type of love language. But where I was going with it is that attachment styles is like a nervous system thing. So it's really like how you feel inside, like how that other person makes you feel. So like, do they make you feel calm, safe, open, vulnerable, all those things? Or do you feel like you're on eggshells? Do they like you just get that tightness in your chest, like you're with them, you want this thing to work, but like deep down, like you just feel like something is off or something isn't right. Our body knows that before our brain does oftentimes. So just being able to understand yourself and kind of what your body is telling you about that connection or that relationship or that person can really help aside of everything else. But everything does kind of work together. The attachment styles and nervous system, love languages. It's all like one big pie that we're creating.
Are these like traits or qualities we should be asking or trying to figure out even in the earlier talking stages? Or is this something you really learn about someone after 2 to 3 dates or like 3 months together?
So I would say it's probably subjective because I'm so open and I love this work that let's freaking talk about it right away, right? But the funny part of that is if you're with somebody that is avoidant, like they're not really going to want to talk about it, right? Like when I think back to a prior relationship that, felt super high and then in a few months were super low and it all kind of blew up because of attachment styles, we talked about it in a kind of a roundabout way. And I've always wondered like if we dove more into it, would that have helped in any way? It doesn't necessarily mean the outcome would have changed, but just would have been easier to have adult conversations around those dynamics as things kind of went sideways. And my belief is that nothing would have really changed because by default they just like they want to avoid the emotion and the vulnerability and different things, and so like it never would really come out in the way that I would need to receive it. What I would tell you is that from personal experience, talking about it, even early on, doesn't equate to any compatibility. So in my mind, we're talking about this dynamic, we know where each other is coming from. That doesn't actually help at all. As much as I want it to, it actually means nothing in my personal experience. Just because someone can name that they have these avoidant tendencies, or you can kind of pick up on some of the things, it really doesn't matter how good that connection might feel to you. There's still, it's a nervous system thing. They're still going to be essentially kind of buoyed to those different traits and those different things that are triggering to them, that are feel unsafe to them. And so that was just a point that came to me that I wanted to point out. So I guess roundabout way to answer your question is I think it's good to know, to talk about, to try to understand each other. But I get kind of little tells. You don't need to have like a huge, big conversation, but to understand that, hey, this person may not actually be able to meet me where I need to be met, so that you don't overinvest yourself and you go off the deep end. And then in 3 weeks or X amount of time, you get really hurt because you thought there was something there, but it was simply they just didn't have the capacity to be able to connect with you in the way that you need.
Right, absolutely. And not just your personal experience, but for others, how do people kind of get over that feeling of going from the absolute highs of this could be my forever person into the lows of this fell apart. You may not understand why. It seems like you have it more figured out than many others, but is there a way others can kind of figure that out for themselves so they can get themselves out from the rut that they may feel like they're in?
So I would say that I was born and raised secure and then turned anxious because of past relationships. So like that's what I looked for. Like that's what was drawing me in. That's what was pulling me into a connection. But now on the other side of understanding those dynamics, like why was I anxious? Why was I'm gonna say begging, but that's not really the right word, like begging for that reassurance, needing that reassurance. Where is that coming from? Being able to understand that and really kind of own it. Like none of us are broken. Like we're not unlovable. Like we're all just unique, but owning yourself as who you are and being able to come into it with that sort of mindset instead of all the self-doubt and self-criticism and everything that we do and we beat ourselves up, being able to understand where it's coming from and move forward in that way. And I feel like I didn't actually answer your question. So if you
No, it was wonderful because you did share about, why we're feeling those highs and then understanding how we're getting, low, like what causes that. And I think that right there just helps us understand, okay, this is more of a behavior thing. It was a compatibility thing. You had the connection and that love and that high for one person, you can have it again. It's not the end of the road. There's going to be others that will be the right fit and connection for you.
yeah, one thing I wanted to point out is that that I have learned, we've talked multiple times, like we have that growth mindset, whether we're 22 or 52 or 92, that doesn't matter. Like that's just like innate in us. And what I have found is that somebody who's a fearful avoidant, they also really like that depth and that growth. So we can initially meet on that level and it feels really good because it feels like we're meeting each other where we are. And then once the nervous system kicks in, all those warning bells start going off in their head. Like, I really want this connection, but it scares me because of whatever happened in the past. So now I need to run away. And what I would offer to somebody that is in that position is to just sit with that and don't just run away. Like, don't just preemptively just end the thing. Like, talk to somebody, whether that's a coach, a therapist, a friend, a family member. Talk to somebody that you can kind of get their unbiased opinion because they'll be able to see it from the 30,000-foot view where you may be so close to it that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's overwhelming. I have to run away. That doesn't mean that you have to be with that person forever, but just to give the both of you the opportunity to explore that connection. I just see that a lot where it seems that I don't know if it's social media or however we're conditioned. I mean, we're all just swiping, right? And like now there's shorts. And so we can't do anything without 10-second hit of this dopamine and that dopamine and all that stuff, where like it's this endless choice and nobody seems to be able to commit to one person, but not even like in a relationship, just even from a freaking dating sense of like getting to know somebody. There's just a lot. It's a crazy modern dating world that we live in.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And technology, behavior, everything that influences us is changing the way that we interact and have these conversations. But it is important that we do have them. TT, I'm going to have a few more questions here. We have a brief pause for our sponsor here, and then we'll be right back with some more questions. Both speaking of our growth and our connections, I put together a growth engine blueprint that focuses on making high level authority connections and relationships for those who can help connect you with your ideal audience. So we'll have that link available down in the show notes for everyone to get connected with the growth engine blueprint. CT, you've been talking more about the connections, the behaviors, the people, and sometimes just taking that look like inwards towards ourselves. And sometimes we need to go outwards, ask other people to kind of give us that, 30,000-foot view, like you were sharing. But specifically when it comes to the connections, how do we find it in this digital age where you were saying that we have the shorts, the quick hit of dopamine? How do we kind of get back to the old school way or, just leverage that for ourselves?
I would say to go inward, to understand yourself, to understand what it is that you truly desire. And because I think what is going on is that we're all just putting up a facade. We're all just wearing a mask. No, I shouldn't say most of us are not being genuine. Like we're putting up this curated life, whether it's social media or online dating profiles or wherever that happens to be. And if we came at it with much more authenticity, just who we are and what we're about and what is important to us, I feel we'd be able to make better connections because we'd be able to meet people in a little bit deeper way. I can give all the normal advice of like, sure, like you can use online dating, but like don't focus on that and like do things that you enjoy, passionate about, hobbies, whatever it is. That's all well and good. But I think you have to love yourself before you can love another person. So if we can go inward and do that work, then wherever we are to meet that person, we're going to be a better partner for them. They're going to be a better fit for us. We're not going to be trying to soothe ourselves or fill some void in ourselves by that connection. It doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, but we're on that path. That alone, I think, could help to alleviate a lot of the disconnection that people are feeling. The way that it seems to be in the world is all the people that are ready for relationships are not meeting those that are. It's not a great situation. So like you meet somebody and like they have no capacity for the relationship, whereas like you are dead set and you know exactly what you're looking for. It doesn't mean they have to fit this 62 checklist criteria, but the people that are ready for relationship are meeting others that are, and so there just feels to be a big chasm in that big gap in between there of being able to find people that are ready to meet you.
Right, absolutely. And I think everything you share about personal dating relationships, I think can also be said about business relationships. Because while, the digital space can help in some way, it can help support, your visibility or just making those connections. There is nothing quite like the one-on-one, human to human sort of connection because this is where we kind of connect at a deeper level. It's the energy, the body language. You can't get that through online dating for personal and for business. That's so important. We focus on that human to human connection.
Yeah, I always say, I mean, you could have 1,000 Zoom calls, and one-on-one in person would beat the totality of that tenfold.
Absolutely. And I'm starting to, realize and starting to implement that more. It's one thing to realize it, but to take action steps towards that is totally different. Now, CT, I want to ask, where can people find you and connect with you online? Do you mind sharing some of your links for everybody?
Yes, absolutely. So the Mindful SPX on Instagram and TikTok, the mindfulxpx.com. And I have a podcast called Securely You, where I'm talking about all this stuff, relationships, attachment styles, love languages, and everything that goes into creating secure connection.
I love that. And we'll have the links available down in the show notes and the description for everybody. CT, you've made some big changes in your life. You're finding what's working for you. You're finding yourself, you're finding others. This is a great point in life to be at. I feel like, you're just kind of finding opportunities for yourself and taking them head on. What are you kind of looking forward to? You have so much going on. You have a lot coming in your future. What are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm most excited about speaking at colleges and doing workshops and helping college students to understand these dynamics. Being able to understand then what I know now, my relationships would have been 1,000% different. So I feel a service and a duty and a passion and a purpose for that work. Nothing more fulfilling than seeing that light bulb go on and knowing that I have the ability to have the impact that could change the trajectory of their lives, of their relationships, and the people that they connect with and the partners that they seek.
Absolutely. And I feel like that is almost the perfect audience for when they're really kind of coming into adulthood. They're learning more about relationships and themselves and others. So it's a perfect time for that conversation to be happening. And I hope that it carries through and catches fire with everyone else. And I think you're in a perfect spot to do that because you're super close to the West Coast. You can fly up here and just kind of make the circuit happen for yourself. That's incredible.
I mean, if I could, I would just live at 35,000 feet. Like I don't even need a home base. Let's
Just like lower me down and then just lift me back up. Just fly all right. That's
be part of
incredible.
the 7,000 million airline club or whatever.
Oh, that is incredible. CT, is there anything we haven't discussed yet that you want to share with our audience of, the business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs, people who are just like us, kind of finding their ways through life?
I would just say if we just zoom out from relationships and just kind of general, is that we only get one shot this life. So let's create that in alignment with what we desire. Let's not just chase the money or the job title or whatever the external thing is. Let's go internal to understand what actually drives us And then whether you make X or Y a year, and whether you do this or that, whether you live there or here, none of that matters because you're in alignment with yourself. So more that we can focus on that, the better and more fulfilling and rewarding your entire life. Everything about your life will be.
I totally agree. That is very well said. I'm starting to realize a lot of those things as well, going through life and business here. It's not really chase the money for so long. It's really not about that. And we're looking to fulfill ourselves and our communities with something a little bit different. So I love how your approach to that just lets us realize, okay, maybe the thing I thought I wanted isn't what I really need.
Absolutely. I would
CT?
say 99% of the time that's about the case.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, totally agree. CT, I'm so excited for this, new adventure that you're on. You're on a great path here. Congratulations on everything you've done. I'm looking forward to the future for you as well.
I appreciate it, brother. And whenever you're here, the coffee's on me.
Oh, I appreciate, looking forward to it. Thank you so much.